it was no longer a community to us in the real sense. In the real sense, America became our community, and that was it. It was really a moment. There was like a breath there for a moment. There was like an open door. It's like, ooh, look, then bam, it slammed shut again immediately. And everybody finally moved out. The original people there, everybody left when the tanks came down the street. The National Guard came. I mean, the Haight-Ashbury. Like, what was more harmless? It was totally harmless. And the reaction ultimately was the National Guard, fixed bayonets, tanks on Haight Street. It was like, come on, it was like something of an overreaction, and it was so completely skewed, it didn't make any sense anymore. That was it.
And the music itself that you're talking about that started it all. I mean, people, a lot of people talk about this. You're hearing rock music, you're hearing folk music, you're hearing country music, you're hearing jazz, improv. What is it to you? What defines the Grateful Dead sound?
I love this word the best, freedom.
Freedom.
But also Dixieland music. Not that it sounded characteristically like Dixieland music, but it has the same personalities where different instruments play the leads at the same time. 2 and 3, 4 instruments are all playing solos together. And our music, to me, really was working to do that.
So when things didn't work, and you write about this in the book very candidly, what went wrong? What was it?
It's hard to remember it just wasn't working, I actually remember the things that made it work. So there could be a night, like you're talking about, where the whole night, till maybe 3/4 of the way through it, seemed horrible. Just like, oh, what are we doing here? And then
wait a minute, what are we doing? Like while you're
why
playing?
Why are we here playing? Like this, like we're not doing this right tonight, It's just, and a lot of that isn't really true. It's how you're feeling personally about something. But the thing that would bring it out of that, which I always loved, was you play one song in the second set and it would free up all that thinking immediately. You go, oh yeah, this is great. And it would change them.
When did the recording phenomenon start?
When they started making good portable cassette recorders.
Yeah.
And they sounded really good, the cassettes were not as bad as you might think.
You'd look out there from stage and it looked like a forest of trees, a microphone.
Right.
Remember that?
Our record company said, you got to put a lid on this.
Oh my God. You weren't worried about piracy?
No.
It was the smartest thing we ever did.
Those cassettes went all over the world.
You went viral before anybody knew what viral was.
Right, yeah.
You were so far ahead of your time in that respect.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't by design.
No, it was, we were taking the path of least resistance.
Is it true that you introduced John Mayer to Bob Weir?
I did. He was a huge fan. I get in the car and drive with him, to the studio and stuff. And he always had the Grateful Dead channel on Sirius on, and he could identify, no, that's not 78 because Jerry's playing through this pedal or something like that. Wow. I got the job with Blue Note, and John was downstairs. He'd locked out Capitol Studios with an eye towards making a new record. And Bobby and Mickey came to see me. So I called him up. I said, you better come up here. He was very eloquent about how much he loved the Grateful Dead and why. And they were kind of taken aback. They were surprised. So they invited him, well, come on up and play sometime. And when the opportunity cemented itself for him to go play with those guys 3 months later, he shut down the record, cleared out all his stuff, went home and cracked the code on Grateful Dead, and particularly what was behind what Jerry was doing. He knew not to do karaoke Jerry, and he really studied. I drove up there with him. We got a couple of Airstreams parked in the parking lot of Bobby's studio, and we stayed about 4 days. But at the end of the 4th day, they came in. They said, all right, let's do this. You'll be a partner. You'll be in the thing.
Yeah.
That was something I learned from John. Like, don't go in unprepared.